Thank you, Jen. I think we can all relate to that situation. Ashley, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. So as you said, Olivia, 15 seconds. So I'm going to go quick. My name is Ashley. I'm a founder of an agency focused on China and an education company also focused on China digital marketing. And I was this week virtually typing an email which started with sadly or something like I'm sorry, but we will not be able essentially to help you with XYZ. Because essentially one of the clients, they wanted to have unrealistic, KPIs for a very limited budget. And literally I was typing that in an email when I paused and I deleted it and I rephrased it completely. I said, based on XYZ, these are not realistic KPIs. Hence, we're not going to be able to help you deliver them.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, Nishtha.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. So quickly, my name is Nishtha, based in Shanghai for 16 years. And I essentially focus on bringing the startup way of working in large corporates. So I'm a lean innovation coach and a change management facilitator. So that's what I do. And I think it was with Ashley, I think 3 days ago, I was about to message Ashley with, I'm sorry, I can't probably do the room on Monday with you. Ashley, yesterday we were supposed to do a room together and I'm really chopped. And then I also almost deleted that. And I said, why am I sorry? 1 second. Something has come into my plate and I'm actually exhausted. I don't have the mental capacity. So I rephrased that and saying, let's reschedule it to next week. So I think that was a good reminder. Thank you so much.
I love that, Nishtha.
Thank you.
Because basically, if you're saying sorry for something that doesn't matter as sorry, then when you're actually really sorry, then your sorry might not mean so much. So that's cool that you cut yourself. Sorry, Olivia, back to you.
No worries. Thank you, Jen. All right, let's get Lee up here as well.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me, and hello everyone who's joining us. I'm also currently living in Shanghai, like a lot of the other ladies speaking just now. And I previously ran Radii, and I'm personally very interested in building communities to support women who are working and living in Shanghai. So this conversation is very interesting. It's particularly interesting for me that we're talking about being sorry, because I spent most of my life growing up in the UK, and we are sorry about everything all the time. If there are anyone who's in the audience who are currently living in the UK or have, spouses or close friends who have the British culture embedded in them, this. We're sorry about left, right, and centre. So it's been really difficult for me. And actually, earlier this week, I struggled a lot talking about, or later last week, I struggled a lot talking to a male founder of a business, and I weirdly wanted to apologize for the fact that I didn't believe in some of his ethical values and the way that he was doing business. And I started typing out this message saying, sorry, I don't think the way that you're dealing with the situation is appropriate. And then I deleted it thinking, why am I sorry? I shouldn't be sorry about this. You should be sorry. Am I just sorry because I'm delivering the message to you and I have to be vulnerable in front of you? I wonder what that is, but I actually didn't end up having the courage to send the message. So maybe this conversation will give me the courage to do so. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lee. I think to echo off of what you and Nishtha have both said about taking a pause and thinking, wait, why am I really sorry? Why am I sorry? Is there actually a reason for this? Can be so important. Really quickly, thank you everyone again for joining. My name is Olivia. I'm also in Shanghai. I work primarily in social media marketing in China, and I also help to run a nonprofit community for international professional women in Shanghai. So we hold regular events about a variety of topics to support women professionals in leadership. So this room is a passion project of mine, and I'm excited that we can bring all of these lovely ladies and all the men in the audience as well together. So we're going to kick it off tonight with a few questions, and then I see tons of people who have raised their hand and have come on stage. So we're also going to give you guys a chance to jump in, and we want to hear from you and your experiences and your advice. So we've talked a little bit about this already, but I want to hear a little bit more in depth about, when you find yourself saying sorry, is it more often for a good reason? So far, it sounds like a lot of the examples the moderators have given so far is that it's actually not for a good reason. So why are we saying it in the first place? Who wants to kick off with it?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you for having me. I think this word "I am sorry." I think it is also very similar to "pardon me," which don't really mean that you need forgiveness. It's more about politeness, because I think in various cultures they also have this kind of term. Like for example, I live in Japan. I'm a Singaporean based in Japan. In Japan, they always start with "sumimasen," which means "excuse me." And then if they like in Chinese context, there is 不好意思.
不好意思, 对, yeah.
Correct. So I don't think they literally mean that, you are sorry for something and you need forgiveness. And to be honest with you, I think there's another topic, highlight and also called Heather here said, do women really apologize more than men? For me, because I actually grew up with guys, and my personality is a little bit like a boy. So I think, to be honest with you, I don't think men will consider this topic at all, because maybe we women sometimes overthink about things. There's really nothing much about this statement of "I am sorry," because it is not really asking for pardon or asking for forgiveness. It's more a way of politeness, I think. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, that's a great point about, it's not really the actual sorry, how we were taught it, but sometimes it's more of a phrase or more of an opener. So it really depends on the culture and the language. I think let's first, we're going to have a Q&A with the moderators. So the moderators are everybody with a little green asterisk under their photo. And then we're going to open it up to questions from everybody else here.
That sounds like a great plan. I hope you guys can hang tight. You can raise your hands, and we'll try to keep ourselves and our answers pithy, brief, and concise. I also want to just do a quick PSA. There were a bunch of people who raised their hands earlier, and they didn't have bios. So therefore, we cannot bring you up if we have no context from which we know you. And this is an online forum, so. You basically have to have your bio in place before we can bring you up on stage. So thanks. Back to you, Olivia.
Can I just pitch in something? Or Ashley, do you want to go first?
Go ahead, Nishtha.
Okay. I want to actually mention something what Cheryl, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Cheryl said. And Olivia, you might remember we discussed it in IPWS event as well. From my point of view, that yes, it is one form of politeness. So I see it as a spectrum. On the extreme one side is politeness. That's how often sorry is being used to be polite to somebody. And I agree, living in China, it's used in that context a lot more. But also on the other end of the spectrum is regret. When you are genuinely apologetic of something or something, right? So my point is that, unfortunately, if you look at even research subconsciously, we don't realize, but when we just use sorry very loosely for just being polite all the time, actually, psychologists and experts say that your value of generally accepting that apology when you're really sorry diminishes, and people think less of you when you are using too often. So I'm not arguing that politeness is not important. Of course, being polite is important, but can we reframe and use some other ways to appease somebody, to be polite to somebody by not having to say just sorry? That's the question on the table. Do we have better ways so that somebody doesn't think less of you because you're just using it too loosely? Or when you're genuinely apologetic, people don't look up to you and accept your apology. So I think that's the argument as well. Should we say when we really meant to say, and should we reframe our language?
Absolutely. And Nishtha, I can totally like sign under every word, because indeed words matter. And this was tested in the lab. This is tested in our everyday life and existence. Words matter. What we say matter. And word sorry, indeed, in many ways, it belittles the person that essentially apologizes. And when you've done something wrong and you are, asking forgiveness, this is normal, right? You want to make yourself smaller and you are asking the other person to forgive you for something that you've done wrong. But if you're overusing that word, that phrase, it actually makes essentially you feel different. It gets you into a different emotional state, and the other people also treat you differently. So in the professional setting in particular, just like we said earlier, whenever we start an email with "I'm sorry that," or you're I don't know, eating in a restaurant and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, can I sit here?" Or "I'm sorry, am I too loud?" Or "I'm sorry." All that can be exchanged for something different, because even even in Chinese we say 不好意思, right? So it's not really 对不起. It's not really that kind of sorry. It's a different word. It's a different way to say it. So in the professional setting, for me, a lot of things changed when I started using, for example, instead of saying "I'm sorry" about something going wrong in a professional setting, I say "I appreciate that you pointed it out," or "thank you for bringing this to my attention." Or if I'm late, I don't say "I'm sorry I'm late." I just say "thank you very much for bearing with me," right? Or when I type a message saying I'm going to be 5 minutes late, "I'm sorry." So right now I say "I appreciate you bearing with me," or "I appreciate you, waiting for me," etc., etc. Or if somebody catches your mistake, you say "good catch, I'll make changes to XYZ." Or thanking someone. "Thank you for bringing certain things again, noticing my error, bringing this to my attention." It is just a much more, at least in my experience, appropriate way to express this situation.
Brilliant what you just said about using another phrase to replace, because I find myself, the reason why I use sorry, and I anticipate like overusing it is possibly as a placeholder word. Sometimes you don't know what to say, how to interrupt someone, is out of politeness, but also I mean, as Cheryl said earlier about in Japan, they'll say, "sumimasen" means like "excuse me." In China, "oh, 不好意思" means like sorry to bother. But I mean, it's just, or it's like not such a big matter. I feel like, sorry has become such a throwaway word for us too, in a way. And then, right? I saw Nishtha kind of agreeing, right?
But throwaway word for women or for men? Like coming back to the topic,
yes.
Kind of, so does it then change this whole dynamic and really kind of,
So what I was trying to circle back to as well is that by the word sorry implies guilt, responsibility, ownership, even if you don't have that. So I'm just kind of trying to draw it back to the fact that I shouldn't have been apologizing to my helpers for the fact that they couldn't, do a simple grocery list, right? And that I made myself late to my appointment because I had to go sit down and write it for them. And now I've given myself more labor as a result. I should have just been like, let them, I shouldn't have interceded, basically. And so sorry, I feel like sometimes the final reason, sorry, that I wanted to kind of get to is that we as women, we often try to diffuse the situation. We see conflict and we're afraid of it. Like I saw like these women having conflict and I had nothing to do with it. And I was like, "oh, so sorry. Did I not explain myself about what we have to do? Okay, let me do it myself. Maybe I didn't communicate to you." And I was apologizing to them. And basically, instead of empowering them to do their job, I disempowered them by, apologizing and then giving it back to myself to do, which was ridiculous, right? So what we need to do, instead of, using it as a filler word, using it as like, assigning ourselves responsibility for something we shouldn't even be handling, we should use sorry more selectively. I think and Olivia brought up an excellent point. We do. If I count how many times I apologize as opposed to my husband apologizing a day, I would probably outnumber him like by a ratio of 10 to 1. I noticed he will never apologize unless he really feels like he did something wrong, number one, unless he feels like, it's something that he's really, sorry about. He uses it very sparingly. And that's another reason why I'm like, hey, when we discuss things, why am I saying sorry? And if we're having a fight, you need to say sorry first. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to excise it from my vocabulary and replace it with words like, and phrases like Ashley was saying, like, "oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention." oh, thank you. Let's discuss that more. Not like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. And then implying I'm the reason why the conflict happened. I would like we haven't heard from Lee on this. I just saw her on mic. Lee, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I really like all the points you guys have brought up. I think there's one thing that's very clear is using words, whether it's sorry or in the various languages, is very context driven, and every culture and every situation requires something very different. I thought when we were talking about this idea of do women really apologize more than men, I very much thought about it in the context of work. So I'm just going to speak about it from the context of work and try and step out of other, the spectrum that Nishtha mentioned earlier. I think at work, a lot of the time, when you are in a management position, especially when you're working in China, in a big tech, and you are a female, a lot of the time you use sorry as a way of saying, I sympathize that this is going to be a difficult situation for you. I sympathize that this is going to be news that you're going to have to accept and possibly will change the way that you are working right now. But I am in the role, or I've been given the responsibility of delivering this piece of news to you. And very often we're not given the time, and we're not given the connection that we need in that space to say all of these things to an individual. And I actually think very often it comes out as a very lazy form of that, which is, I'm sorry, but this is not working. Or I'm sorry, but what you suggested doesn't actually meet the client's needs, right? I understand that there's a context, which is it's a nice thing to do because it's sympathetic and etc. But I also think that it's also used sometimes in the lazy form too, and maybe as female leaders, and as people who are setting examples for the next generation, we need to think a lot more about making an effort to say these things that build trust, that build more healthy power dynamics in our teams, rather than using placement. And not building those connections.
Can I just add on to what Lee is saying when she's on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I agree with what Lee's saying, and I was going to talk about, she mentioned earlier on the cultural context. It's not just the UK, it's Canada as well. I want to speak to using the word sorry when you actually need support, right? So my example very quickly was I had shown interest in an organization that I really wanted to work with. But by the time, so they got back to me and they were like, oh, we noticed that you hadn't registered, but I was so busy. And they were like, well, if you don't want to, you don't have to. And the first thing I did when I was typing the email was like, apologies, sorry. Then I thought, no, actually, they need to know that I'm busy and that even though I want to get involved, I'm going to need them to support me to help to work with them. So we usually say sorry, like especially in this cultural context, because we don't want to look as if we're trying to get special treatment. We don't want to seem as if we're asserting ourselves, but we really need to be clear that it's possible to not say you want to be special, but it's possible to say that you need support. So not being lazy to actually articulate the kind of support that you expect from people, whether it's management or organizations you work with, without having to apologize for expressing that need.
I think you said a really key thing there. Articulate what you need, which is often so many women find so difficult, of how to articulate what you actually need. So that's an excellent point. I want to give it over to Nishtha for just a second, and then we're going to open it up. I know a lot of people have a lot of great points to add, so we'll get you guys up here and ready. But Nishtha, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Olivia. And I think I just got inspired by what Lee said, and I agree in that sense that because of various reasons, and women especially tend to care a lot more about keeping harmony amongst people. So therefore, sorry becomes a proxy word. I think the question for the audience who are coming up to share their point of view, I would love to hear, or rather, we would love to hear, what is that therefore we can change in our language so that sorry is not just some loose word we are using. Because one of the learnings I've got in the last 10 seconds is that socialization, how we are brought up as women, or how are we raising the next generation of girls, especially, plays a huge role. A lot of girls are brought up in an overprotected environment, or like, you're fragile, it's okay, So I think psychologically, they then hold back and to be bolder, I guess, and reduces their tolerance for stress as well. It's proven again by science. But I think the question back to the audience is, if we shouldn't say sorry too often, is there a better language we can adopt, or can we act? If there is some sympathy we need to show, can we just hold hands of somebody without having to say sorry? I'm just throwing out there for folks to react on. Thank you. I'm done speaking. Nishtha.
Hey, thank you, Nishtha. I actually want to quickly introduce two of the mods. One is Chris. I'll let Wendy introduce herself after, but I really want to thank Chris because he is the founder of Tech Talks. And if you guys haven't already, please follow Tech Talks because they've been so, Chris has actually been really wonderful. He's, I know we have the same last name. People always ask if we're related. He's literally like my brother on Clubhouse, and he's like my guardian in many ways because he makes sure we have these safe spaces to speak in, and he really makes sure that, we have our voice. I've seen him on stages where he's been very, very protective of me, and I have nothing but respect for Chris. Tech Talks also, even when I'm not hosting rooms in it, is a really great space to have conversations centered around tech, people in tech, and I find the level of I guess engagement from both the speakers and the audience is way up there. It's no wonder it's one of the top 3 clubs on Clubhouse. So thank you, Chris, actually, for letting us host out of your room tonight. And for those of you who haven't followed, follow Tech Talks as a club. Chris, are you there? Can you intro yourself?
Jennifer, you're so nice. And what do you mean? We are related. You're my sister. So
Aww.
Thank you for being here, and thank you to the panel for sharing such amazing knowledge and value. The topic is truly interesting and amazing as well too. And those who are on stage, my name is Chris, and those in the audience, I am the founder of Tech Talks. I also work in the cloud infrastructure space. I'm just here to really, support. I'm glad that everyone's here. Super excited to continue this conversation going. And I'll be in and out. But Jennifer is an amazing leader in the space, and she continuously hosts amazing rooms here in Tech Talks. So just super glad to have everyone here. And I'll be here just intently listening. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I feel safer with you around, so please don't I know you're in and out. You're probably running around opening all these rooms, but we do hope you enjoy the discussion tonight, and you can chime in because we are comparing how we apologize more than men. So please stick around with us. I was about to say sorry, but I caught myself. Wendy, if you could quickly introduce yourself in 30 seconds, and then we'll open it up to the stage. I see a lot of people on the stage and also other people raising their hands. So we'll do, as pithy around as possible, popcorn, actually not popcorn style. It'll be pull to refresh style because people have been waiting in the order they've been brought on the stage. But then after they've raised the point, then we can do slight popcorn. Wendy, you have the stage for 30 seconds.
Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy, and I actually met Jennifer through Clubhouse. So I'm really thankful that I've been able to meet such an awesome person, both online and offline. So just a short introduction about myself. I'm a yoga instructor based here in Hong Kong, and I'm Canadian, so I tend to apologize all the time, even when it's not my fault. Like what Nishtha said, it's like a proxy word, like that we just blurt out whenever that comes across. I would love to stay on the stage for maybe the next half an hour because I do have a meeting at 9 o'clock. I think Jennifer,
I'm in the same meeting, and this is power hour, so we do only have half an hour more, so we'll power through this hour, so to speak. Thanks, Wendy.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to share. That's it. So looking forward to sharing and supporting everyone who's on stage and who's also listening.
Thank you. Guofang, you've been waiting a while. Are you ready? Are you still there?
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Nishtha, Lee, Belinda. Nice to meet you here, and Wendy. Yeah, great topic. Actually, earlier when I was in the other room, I also almost wanted to say sorry because I think I said this is such a first of all, I'm Taiwanese, so Taiwanese, Asian, British here in England, and yes, I would love to know more and hearing all your mods to say how can we alternatives divert this sort of non-apologetic, but then wanted to politely to get our point across. Example just literally happened earlier. I think my whatever the comment I made, and then at the end they actually had a very so let's say vibrant conversation just because I gave them something to think about. But then people obviously, I actually wanted to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I opened a Pandora's box, but I shouldn't. And then thankfully Jennifer pinged me, so I jump out. but situations like that also, let's just say if when you're in a meeting, maybe you have a much more creative ideas or from a different point of view, and in fact get the conversation really heated, but it should be more sort of stable, especially in female executive environment and with a lot of men together. What would you suggest, Ray, instead of saying sorry, because it's not about sorry? It's Kuo Fan. I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Kuo Fan. I would say, in my experience, just say thank you. Just thank you for the heated discussion. Thank you for bringing the insights. Whenever you want to say sorry in a professional setting, just turn it into a thank you.
Excellent point, Ashley. And another interesting observation I've noticed actually is a lot of people have prefaced, oh, I'm from, Lee, you said, oh, I grew up in the UK, and Wendy, you said, I'm from Canada. And you preface that with, oh, we say sorry a lot. So it's interesting that everybody seems to have this interpretation of their culture that they feel that, it's because of their culture that they apologize a lot. Something that has come across with everyone.
Olivia, you just triggered something for me, actually. I remember exactly why my mother told me to apologize so much when I was little. And I think part of it has to do with the way we're raised as children and conditioned. I remember that I was moving away from school. I think I was in second grade, and Brunhilde's back. I think so. For some reason, she was kicked out of the room. But I was actually in second grade or first grade, and I remember we were moving to a different town, so I had to change schools. And one of the little boys I used to play with, he punched me in the eyes, and I had a black eye. And then I was like crying and wondering why. And the teacher didn't make him say sorry. The teacher instead turned to me and said, "Oh, Lee has a crush on you." Like his name was Lee Goldberg. He has a crush on you. And I was just like, remembering like, well, if a boy hits me, why is he hitting me? And then she said, "Oh, maybe he's sad that you're moving away." And then I remember going home to my mom, and she said, "Oh, did you say sorry to him?" And I said, "Why? He hit me." And she said, "Oh, boys are stronger than you. So if you want a man to stop, being violent or doing something towards you, you have to say sorry first and just diffuse the situation." So when I was young, I learned quickly that by saying sorry a lot, you would diffuse the situation, which I don't think is a great thing. And I tend to say sorry way too quickly, especially if I feel like I'm in danger or something.
Yeah, it comes back to that point earlier about, women, we're always trying to diffuse the situation, right? To bring down the temperature. And let's see, Yenny, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. You've been up here for a long time, and I've seen you clapping as well. Would you like to contribute?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for having me on stage. Jennifer, your story really resonates with me. I'm also growing up in a Hong Kong household. I'm from Hong Kong. And I just noticed that when I was young, whenever I say sorry, I say a lot of thank you and kind of like this kind of self-deprecation. My parents always reward me with praises, saying that I'm polite and, being obedient is a good thing when I was young. But then now coming back to the corporate environment, suddenly everything changed, right? Because our expectation towards how leadership looks like is very different from being polite and being obedient. So I had the hardest time adjusting to it. And now that I'm an engineering manager, I see that a lot, especially with my women reports. So if you ask me, do women really apologize more than men? Then from the empirical evidence that I have so far managing people, then I do see that, right? And people even get peer feedback that they're unsure of themselves. But I know that it's not because they're unsure. It's because like when they say things, they use a lot of downgraders. For example, we say quite, maybe, sorry, or thank you, a lot of these appreciative words. Whereas for men in the same team, they use a lot of these upgraders, like very incredibly, I'm really sure. And yeah, I think there are some negative consequences of the way we were taught. And I think that's unfortunate. And I really agree with what Ashley mentioned, changing it into a different framing and really helping us succeed given the cultural differences and the different expectations that we now have in the corporate environment.
Yenny, 1,000,000%. I'm with you on that. In my team, I've got maybe 60% ladies, 40% gentlemen, and I've got a couple of colleagues that virtually start every second sentence with I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. And after a while, communicating with both, you just understand that this is, not a healthy pattern. Because before the person said anything, you already feel that they have something to be sorry for. And virtually, you need to retrain your staff. You need to empower the women on your team to change so that we can all change together. And our future, generations and kids are hopefully going to be different and wired differently.
Great point, Ashley. So it immediately brings down the mood. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to agree with Ashley as well. And I think just to build on that point a little bit of how do we support each other in having these conversations, whether you're in a room with just women or you're in the room with men and women. And I think for me, my process of thought is that I think in general, this is a point that many of us have raised today, is that women in general like to diffuse difficult conversations, difficult situations, and we're very nurturing individuals, so we like to provide that kind of support. And I think over time, support, we hope, will slowly build into trust, and all of these moments of vulnerability that we have with the team and we share with the team, we hope that over time allows them to speak freely and speak openly. And I think one thing that we could all practice, and I'm very much telling myself this as I'm saying this out loud, so don't ask me how it's going, because I don't think I practice half as much as I should, is maybe in certain situations where I know I'm going to get myself into a different conversation, I first set the stage. So maybe it's a moment that I need to find courage and stand up and say to my team or say to a team, hey guys, I know that there's a difficult conversation coming. And inside of the difficult conversation, we're going to have to empathize with each other and support each other. And I understand that all of you feel slightly different about the consequences and the outcomes of this conversation. But we are here together. And instead of being sorry for supporting each other or having to deliver bad news, that's not what the other person wants to hear, stay open-minded. Now, Jade or Bob or whoever is sitting to my left is going to kick off this conversation. Just like the way that Olivia has been setting the stage for this conversation tonight, maybe as leaders, male or female, we need to make more of an effort to set that momentum forward and diffuse the situation before it arises. I don't know what you guys think.
That's a great point. I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier about not being lazy and actually taking the time to set the stage, to prime people, and to make it okay to have these difficult conversations so that people don't actually feel like they need to apologize for anything in the first place. I want to move along through the audience to Maria. Maria, what can you share with us about saying sorry? Any tips that you do to not use the word?
Thank you, Olivia. It's Maria here, and I want to thank Jennifer for bringing me up on stage. So
thanks for following me over, Maria. We were in the board meeting earlier, and I really appreciate you spending some more time with us. Sorry that you I just said sorry again. Let you take it back from here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just super inspiring to be surrounded by amazing women in here. And also, Jennifer, I've been following you in different rooms, and it's every time I'm in a room, I'm just super inspired by you. So thank you so much for that. As following on the topic, I do share similar experiences with everyone here, and I think the majority of us have stated the main components that they do address the reasons behind us saying sorry all the time. So I think, as everyone has been stating, the upbringing, the upbringing and the cultural aspect, which I personally have experienced for the past few years, coming from a multicultural, diverse background. I think I embrace my intuition based on my cultural differences that I personally have all in one, like speaking almost 8 languages. I have this different understandings, I would say, when I encounter someone older than me or a person who have a different cultural sensitivity. So I personally, to share with you what I do, I basically do treat myself every time I encounter myself in such a situation to say I'm sorry. I do pause for a second and I ask myself, why am I going to say sorry? So indirectly, this habit has been developed, and then I try to understand the difference between over apologizing and even giving a genuine apology. So being empath and trusting your intuition on the particular situation, I think, is important. And the more you train yourself to that, you will get the auto-reflection in time. I'm Maria, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Maria. I loved your point about how different languages contribute to, your handling of the situation and really taking a pause and looking at, why are you using that word and what the context is. Thank you so much for sharing. Moving to Alexandra. Alexandra, thank you so much for coming up here and being in the room. Would you like to chime in at this point?
Hi, Olivia, and hi to everyone on the panel. Yes, I would love to, and thank you for inviting me up. This is a topic that I am passionate about and I speak about frequently. I'm a negotiation trainer and professor, and negotiation isn't just about numbers, it's also in the way we express ourselves and tell our story. And I have so often seen women execute on what I call social apologies. So apologizing to make themselves seem relatable, apologizing to make ourselves seem likable, apologizing in an attempt almost to get the other person to apologize. So you're in the workforce, you've told your colleague you're blocked off between 11 and 1. He schedules a meeting for noon when you told him you couldn't make it. And you say, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't make it at that time. Even though really it's he who should be apologizing for scheduling the meeting during a time that you already said you were not available. I want to tell a story, and then I want to give people a strategy that they're going to use forever to get rid of the sorry. Okay, I posted about it on my Instagram last week. Over 1,000 people engaged on the post because this will change your life. So in the process of publishing my book last year, I was engaging a publicist, and I called a male publicist and a female publicist. Both of them took a week to get back to me, okay? So the woman calls me back and says, hi, Alex. Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been a hot mess this week, okay? That's her introduction to me. The man calls me back, and I said, listen, I wrote to you through your website. That was over a week ago, and I didn't hear from you. I ended up calling your office. And he said, oh, my website. Thank you, Alex, for letting me know about that. I'm going to check into that right away. In other words, what he did was, instead of saying, I'm sorry, he said, thank you. So if I arrive 5 minutes late to my Zoom with Ashley, instead of saying, I'm so sorry, Ashley, I'm a hot mess today, I say, Ashley, thank you so much for your patience. I was getting my daughter on her homeschool. Instead of apologizing for bringing up my raise or my promotion, I say, thank you for meeting with me. This is really important for me to discuss. So for anybody who's ever over apologized, just take the words, I'm sorry, write them on a piece of paper, cross it out, throw it in the garbage, burn it, and just remember to say, I thank you. And thank you has all of the collaborative benefits without making yourself small or detracting from yourself, your power, your authority, your expertise, that it's so critical for us to claim whether we're in tech or any other sector. So thank you for starting the room on this really important topic, and thanks for letting me speak on it a bit today.
Great. Okay. I was just saying there was a conversation on what to say instead of saying sorry, because, women in general are polite and they want to diffuse situations and all of those things. And I agree with that. But at the same time, I think it's important to identify when it's not even required to diffuse the situation, or it's not even required to kind of be that polite. And I think women do that a lot more when it's not even required. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I feel like it kind of puts us down a little bit. It reduces our power in the space. So I believe it's not just about not what to say if not sorry. It's also to realize that a lot of times being polite is not required, or diffusing the situation is not required. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sonali. That brings up a great point there. And I think we'll have some of those points we can continue on another discussion for another time, I think. But I want to get to Dr. DR.
Hi guys, Chandani speaking. I just wanted to share, so I'm part of a research group that looks at interdisciplinary interactions using qualitative research methods. And one of the things we found from that is that women do apologize more. And one of the reasons that might be is because they're apologizing for taking the discourse space. We're socialized so as not to take up discourse space, because we have learned that we are more negatively perceived than the equivalent or the parallel, like the equivalent of a male speaking. And so one of the things we might do, for example, if we're in a team meeting, so that we can speak and say, oh, I'm sorry, might I interject? That's essentially what we're saying. But also the language that we use is often different. We might not say sorry, but we imply it when we take up discourse space. And we might go, oh gosh, I'm rambling, or I didn't realize, or I really apologize, or oh, I don't know if that makes sense. And I think women are more likely to use that tentative language and to use those upgrades, as Jenny talked about. So I think it's just being aware how we use that phrase, I'm sorry, to negotiate power. And I'm done.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Wendy. But Wendy, can you do us a favor and actually add in a tip for us? Are you still there? Hello.
Hi, are you talking to me?
Yeah, hi, Wendy.
Hi. So a tip that I would say is just really be reflective of your words and your thoughts before you blurt them out. Because a lot of times when we're rushing in towards a conversation, we're not really thinking. Like, I feel like sometimes we say sorry as like gives us a little bit of time, like a pause for us to really think about what we want to say afterwards. So I think my tip is to just be aware of your thoughts and think clear before you speak. And that's what I want to say.
I want to also quickly interject with the fact that a lot of us women on Clubhouse, a lot of us are moms. And I always hear women apologizing and say, oh, that's my kid in the background. Or, oh, there's a baby crying. I'm so sorry. And we shouldn't be saying sorry. I say it all the time, but I tell Wendy and Irene when I hear their children, I'm like, that's fine. Motherhood's natural. Children cry. In fact, if they're like not non-responsive, then you should be worried. So that's something we should not apologize for, which is motherhood and the fact that we have lives outside of Clubhouse. And then... yeah, I see people clapping. I want to move it along now, passing the mic back to Olivia so she can PTR for me. I've got the piano ready.
Back on the piano. All right, Adriana, it's over to you now. Can you give us one tip?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to preface with, I do believe in the power of our words. I believe that our words can impact our outside world, and our words... because our words turn into actions that make that impact. But I had a male mentor, that I missed his phone call. I, after 3 tries, got connected with him, said, I'm so sorry I missed your phone call. He said, no, you regret you missed my phone call, and said that the word sorry, rooted back to the Hebrew or the Greek, forgive me for not remembering, actually translates to it's my fault. So when we say, I'm sorry, we're saying it's my fault, which in turn can lower our self-esteem over time. And when he pointed that out, and my belief with words making an impact on my life, I started replacing I'm sorry with I regret or forgive me or even gratitude, and saying thank you, which was points made earlier.
I love that, Adriana. Thank you so much for sharing that
Adriana,
story and tip.
In under 30 seconds, too. I didn't get the breakout session piano. Thank you.